It wasn't a shed. It was a doorway to another world. A world built on my grandma's secrets and designed for my revenge. The moment the heavy door creaked open, the laughter from my family died in their throats. The air that came from inside wasn't musty or filled with the smell of old dirt and rusty tools. It smelled clean, like money and power. It smelled like the beginning of their end. My name is Mary Brooks. I'm 42 years old, and just yesterday, I had nothing. Today, I have a secret. And this is the story of how my grandma's last gift gave me the power to destroy the people who broke me. Just 1 year ago, my life fell apart. My husband, David, the man I loved for 20 years, told me he was leaving. He didn't just leave, he shattered my world. He had been cheating on me with my own cousin, Sarah, and had been slowly moving all our money into secret accounts. When he left, he took everything. The house, the savings, my retirement fund. He left me with a mountain of debt and a heart torn to pieces. My family. They took his side. David is a successful man, Mary, my sister Clara said. You should have tried harder to keep him. They called me a failure. The hurt from their betrayal was still fresh when we all gathered for the reading of my grandma Eloise's will. The lawyer's office felt cold and stuffy. My brother, Robert, and my sister, Clara, sat across from me, looking like vultures waiting for a meal. They got everything. Clara got Grandma's beautiful house, the one filled with all our childhood memories. Robert got her stocks and investments, a small fortune that would make him even richer. They smiled at each other, happy and greedy. I felt so small, so invisible. I knew there would be nothing left for me. I was right. And I was wrong. Finally, the lawyer cleared his throat and looked at me over his glasses. And to my beloved granddaughter, Mary Brooks, he read from the paper, I leave you my old garden shed at the back of the property, and everything within it. The room exploded with laughter. Not quiet chuckles, but loud, cruel laughter. Clara covered her mouth, her shoulders shaking. David, who had come to support them, let out a mean smirk. They were laughing at my pain. They saw it as the final joke. The failed wife, the poor sister, was now the proud owner of a pile of rotting wood and rust. After the meeting, Clara and David followed me to Grandma's house. Going to check out your new mansion, Mary? Clara teased, her voice dripping with poison. David jingled the keys to his new luxury car. Maybe you can find some old paint cans to sell. Every dollar counts, right? Every word was a tiny knife stabbing into my heart. We walked through the overgrown garden to the back of the yard. There it was. The shed. It looked even sadder than I remembered. The paint was peeling, the tin roof was rusted through in places, and a huge old padlock held the doors shut. It was a symbol of everything I had become, forgotten and worthless. I stood there, holding the single heavy iron key the lawyer had given me. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely hold it straight. I wanted to run. I wanted to cry. I wanted to disappear. But then I looked at their smug faces, and a different feeling started to bubble up inside me. It wasn't sadness. It was anger. A hot, burning rage that I had kept locked away for so long. I would not give them the satisfaction of seeing me break. I jammed the key into the rusty lock, ignoring their continued jokes about me living with spiders. There was a loud click that echoed in the quiet afternoon. The sound was so definite, so final, that it made them stop talking for a second. I took a deep breath, grabbing the rough wooden handle with both hands, and pulled. The door was heavy, and it groaned loudly as it swung open. I braced myself for the sight of darkness and cobwebs, for the smell of damp earth. But that's not what happened. A soft, warm light spilled out from the doorway, pushing back the afternoon shadows. It wasn't a shed. It was a room. And in the center of the room was something impossible. Their jaws dropped. Clara gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. David's smug smile vanished, replaced by a look of pure, dumbfounded shock. Inside, where there should have been shovels and dusty flower pots, stood a modern high-tech elevator. The walls of the room were lined with smooth, dark wood, and the elevator doors were made of polished, gleaming steel. A small, glowing panel waited next to the doors. It was like something out of a spy movie. It made no sense. How could this be hidden inside a falling-apart shed? It was beautiful, and it was terrifying. My feet moved on their own, carrying me over the threshold and into the secret room. I felt like I was in a dream. My fingers brushed against the cool metal of the elevator doors. I turned back to look at Clara and David. Their faces were a perfect picture of greed and confusion. They looked like children who had just been told magic was real. On the control panel, there was only one button, a simple circle with my grandma's initial, an elegant E, glowing in the center. Without a second thought, with their shocked eyes still on me, I pressed it. The steel doors slid shut with a quiet, satisfying hiss, sealing me inside and blocking out their stunned faces. The elevator began to move, not up, but down, smoothly descending deep into the earth. Where was I going? What did my grandma build beneath her garden? This wasn't just an inheritance. It was a puzzle. It was a weapon. And as I descended into the darkness, I knew that the game had just changed. The people who laughed at me were about to find out how wrong they were. If you want to discover the secrets waiting for me at the bottom of this elevator, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss Chapter 2. I would be so happy to know where you are watching this story from, so please tell me in the comments below. The elevator is stopping. The doors are opening. And you will not believe what I'm seeing. The elevator doors whispered open, and the world I knew disappeared. I wasn't in a dusty cellar. I was standing in a place that shouldn't exist. The room was huge, circular, and bright white. Gleaming computer monitors covered the curved walls, all of them dark and silent. In the center of the room sat a single large desk made of dark wood, with a black leather chair behind it. It felt like a spaceship, or a secret spy headquarters from a movie. This was not the work of a sweet old woman who baked apple pies. This was the work of someone powerful. Someone who was hiding. My feet felt heavy as I stepped out of the elevator and walked toward the desk. The air was cool and still. I ran my hand over the smooth, cold surface of the desk. Who was my Grandma Eloise, really? All my life, I thought I knew her. But this place told a different story. It spoke of secrets and a hidden life I could never have imagined. Then I saw it. Sitting perfectly in the center of the desk was a tablet. The screen was black, except for 4 glowing words. For Mary. Touch to play. With a shaky hand, I reached out and touched the screen. It flickered to life, and there was my grandma's face. She looked older than I remembered, and there were sad lines around her eyes, but the eyes themselves were sharp and full of fire. "Mary, my dear girl," she said, her voice filling the silent room. It was so real, it was like she was right there with me. "If you are watching this, it means I am gone. And it means they have shown their true colors, just as I knew they would. I am so sorry, my love, that I had to leave you to face them alone. But I did not leave you defenseless." Her image on the screen seemed to look right into my soul. "This place is your defense, Mary. It is your army. It holds all of my secrets, and now they are your secrets. But before I tell you how we are going to get back everything they stole, there is something you must know. It's about the day your grandpa died." My heart skipped a beat. Grandpa died from a heart attack years ago. "It wasn't as simple as the doctors said," Grandma continued, her voice low and serious. "Your brother, Robert, was with him. And Robert made a choice that day that put all of this, all of our pain, into motion." What choice? My mind was racing, trying to understand. The video stopped, and a folder appeared on the screen, the family ledger. I tapped it, and it opened to reveal pages and pages of documents. It was a roadmap of my family's greed. I saw how Robert used a tricky legal paper to take control of Grandpa's money right after he died. I saw how my sister, Clara, had been taking small amounts from Grandma's bank account every week for 10 years, stealing thousands to pay for her fancy clothes and vacations. It was all here. Proof. Then I found David's folder. My stomach twisted into a knot. Grandma had everything. There were photos of him with my cousin, Sarah, laughing in a hotel room. There were recordings of his phone calls. I heard my husband's voice as he bragged to a friend about how he was hiding all our money from me before he left. "She won't get a penny," he laughed on the recording. Hearing his voice, so full of cruelty, didn't make me want to cry. It made the anger inside me grow into a cold, hard stone. He was a monster. And my grandma had given me the proof. Grandma's face reappeared on the screen. "He didn't just steal your money, Mary. He stole your future." She told me to open another folder, this one called Project Nightingale. Inside, I found hundreds of files. They were plans and designs for a new kind of technology, a smart home system that could help old people live safely on their own. It was a beautiful idea. It could change the world and help so many people. It was my grandma's secret project, her life's work. At the bottom of the main design document was the inventor's name. It said, David Brooks. He had stolen her soul. How? How could he do this? The pain was so deep it took my breath away. He hadn't just cheated on me and taken our money. He had found my grandma's greatest idea and put his name on it. He had stolen her legacy. "That project was for you, Mary," Grandma's voice said softly. "I was going to give it to you. For you to build, for you to lead. You must take it back. It is your birthright." At that moment, something inside me shifted. The sadness was gone, replaced by a fire. She was right. I would take it back. Suddenly, a red light blinked on one of the giant monitors on the wall. The screen came to life. It was a camera, showing the view from inside the shed. I saw David and Clara. He was holding a metal crowbar. With a loud cracking sound, he broke the shed door open. They rushed inside, their eyes wild with greed. But then they stopped, their faces frozen in confusion. They were staring at the empty wooden wall where the elevator had been just minutes before. For them, it was just a plain, empty room. I watched them on the screen, feeling a strange new power rush through me. They were locked out, and I was safe inside my secret command center. They looked so small and helpless. Then, David pulled out his phone and made a call. I saw a button on the desk console that said, External Audio. I pressed it, and his angry voice filled my hidden room. "Hello. Yes, it's me," he snapped into the phone. "We have a problem. Someone is in the lower vault." "Yes, the main vault. Send your team now. And tell them to come armed." My blood turned to ice. Who was he calling? What vault? This was so much bigger than just my family's greed. My heart hammered against my ribs, each beat a drum of pure fear. Armed. Who was David talking to? The word echoed in the silent, white room. This wasn't just about a stolen inheritance anymore. This was dangerous. My family's greed had pulled me into a world I didn't understand, a world with men who carried guns. I felt a wave of panic wash over me. I was trapped, a mouse in a high-tech cage, and the cats were coming. I was completely and utterly alone. Or so I thought. Just then, my grandma's face appeared back on the screen, her expression calm and ready. "Do not be afraid, Mary," her voice said, as if she could hear my racing heart. "I knew this day might come. David is not as smart as he thinks he is, but he is a puppet for very powerful people." She explained that the company David worked for, a huge corporation called Omnicorp, wasn't just any company. They were ruthless. They had learned about her secret research years ago and had been trying to get their hands on it ever since. The vault, as David called it, was my grandma's fortress, a place they knew existed but could never find. Until now. "They placed David in your life, my dear," Grandma said, and her words hit me like a physical blow. "They knew he could get close to me through you. His job was to find this place and steal my work. My entire marriage, 20 years of my life, flashed before my eyes. Was it all a lie? Was the love I thought we shared just a part of his job? The pain was so sharp, I almost couldn't breathe. But there was no time for tears. A small map appeared on a screen, showing red dots moving quickly toward the house. They will be here in 10 minutes, Mary. You cannot be here when they arrive. You must run. But how? I was meters underground with no way out. Look behind the main monitor wall, Grandma's voice commanded. You will see a faint line in the paneling. Place your palm flat against it. I rushed over, my hands searching the smooth white wall. I found the line and pressed my hand against it. For a second, nothing happened. Then, with a soft hiss, a section of the wall slid away, revealing a dark, narrow tunnel. A cool, earthy smell drifted out. It was an escape route. A way out. My mind screamed at me to run, to get into the tunnel and disappear. But I couldn't. Not without the proof. I looked back at the main desk, at the files on the screen that could destroy them all. Leaving them behind felt like letting them win. I can't just leave it, I whispered to the screen. As if she heard me, Grandma's voice spoke again. You won't have to. On the desk, there is a small, silver drive. Plug it into the console. There is one master file named The Scythe. Copy it. It is everything, Mary. The only copy. Now hurry. You do not have much time. I found the drive and plugged it in. A progress bar appeared on the screen. 1%. 2%. It was so slow. I watched the security feed, my heart in my throat. The red dots on the map were now at the edge of the property. On the camera, I saw a black van pull up silently, its lights off. 4 men in dark uniforms got out. They were carrying big black guns. My sister Clara was outside the shed, crying and yelling at David. Who are these people? He grabbed her arm, his face cold and hard. Business partners, he hissed. Now get out of the way. The men moved toward the shed with a purpose that terrified me. The download was only at 70%. The progress bar crept forward. 85%. 90%. My whole body was tense, ready to run. Grandma's face looked at me from the screen, her expression full of love and regret. Mary, I am so sorry, she said softly. The Scythe is not just about their stealing. It holds the real truth about what Omnicorp did to your grandfather. They found out he knew about their crimes. His heart attack. It was no accident. They silenced him. The world tilted. My sweet grandpa, who taught me how to fish, was murdered. And the man I had married was one of them. The lie of my life was complete. 98%. 99%. 100%. A loud beep echoed in the room. I ripped the silver drive from the console and clutched it in my hand. It was warm to the touch. On the security monitor, the armed men were at the shed, using a tool to break the door open. They were seconds away from finding the hidden entrance. I didn't wait for another warning. I turned and scrambled into the dark, cold tunnel. The secret door behind me began to slide shut with a low hum, sealing me in darkness. The last thing I saw on the screens was the team of armed men bursting into the white room. The heavy door clicked shut, and I was plunged into total blackness. The air was cold and smelled of damp earth and stone. I could hear nothing but the sound of my own ragged breathing and the frantic beating of my own heart. I was alone, in a secret tunnel, with a small silver drive in my hand that held enough secrets to burn down an entire evil corporation. They were in the bunker now, but they wouldn't find me. Where did this tunnel go? I took one step, then another, my hand trailing along the cold, rough wall. I had to keep moving. My new life had just begun. The darkness was total. It was a cold, heavy blanket that swallowed every sound. For a moment, I just stood there, frozen, with the secret door sealed behind me and a world of danger on the other side. My lungs burned for air. The silver drive in my hand felt like a single hot coal. This little piece of metal held the truth about my whole life, and it was going to get me killed. I took a shaky step forward into the black, my hand scraping against a rough stone wall. I had to trust my grandma. I had to believe this tunnel led somewhere safe. After what felt like forever, walking through the cold and the dark, I saw it. A tiny pinprick of light, far ahead. Hope surged through me, giving my tired legs new strength. I started to walk faster, then I started to run, my footsteps echoing in the narrow space. The light grew bigger and bigger until it became a rectangle of soft, yellow light. It was a door. It was old and wooden, with a simple iron handle. I pushed it open and stumbled into a small, cozy room, blinking against the sudden brightness. I was safe. For now. This place was nothing like the cold, white bunker. It was a small apartment, hidden away from the world. There was a simple bed in the corner, a small kitchen with cans of food on the shelf, and a comfortable-looking armchair next to a bookshelf. It was dusty, like no one had been here in a while, but it felt warm. It felt like my grandma. This was her real sanctuary. On a small wooden table sat an old, simple laptop. This was the next step. I knew I had to see what was on the drive. I had to know what I was fighting for. I sat down, my body trembling with a mix of fear and exhaustion. I plugged the silver drive into the side of the laptop. The screen lit up, showing a single folder named The Scythe. My heart pounded. This was it. I clicked to open it, but a small window popped up in the center of the screen. It was a box, asking for a password. My blood ran cold. A password? Grandma's video never mentioned a password. I tried everything I could think of. Her birthday, my birthday, Nightingale, Eloise. Nothing worked. Each time, the screen flashed, access denied. I was locked out of my own revenge. A wave of despair washed over me. What was I going to do? Omnicorp was hunting for me, and my only weapon was a locked box of secrets. I pushed back from the table, needing to breathe. I looked around the little room, my eyes searching for anything, any clue. My gaze fell on a small, dark wooden box on the bookshelf. It looked old. I opened it. Inside, nestled on a piece of faded red velvet, was a single photograph. It was of me, as a little girl, maybe 7 years old, sitting on my grandpa's lap by the lake. He was teaching me how to skip stones, and we were both smiling. Looking at his kind face in the picture, a memory came rushing back. A memory I had completely forgotten. It was from that same day at the lake. He had hugged me and whispered a secret nickname in my ear, one he only ever used for me. "You're my little sparrow," he had said, "because you're small but you're meant to fly." I ran back to the laptop, my fingers flying across the keys. I typed in the word, SPARROW. I hit enter. The password box vanished. The folder opened. I was in. The first file wasn't a document or a spreadsheet. It was a video. I clicked play, and my grandpa's face filled the screen. He looked tired, but his eyes were clear and strong. He was in this very room. "My dearest sparrow," he began, his voice raspy but full of love. "If you are seeing this, then the worst has happened, and Eloise's plan is in motion." My heart stopped. He knew. He knew he was going to die. He wasn't just a victim. He was a soldier. He and Grandma had been fighting back against Omnicorp all along. He explained everything. They knew David was a spy from the moment he first met me. Project Nightingale was a trap, a piece of bait so perfect that Omnicorp would do anything to get it. They built the bunker and this safe house together, planning for this very day. "We couldn't tell you, Mary," he said, a tear rolling down his cheek. "It was the only way to keep you safe. To make them believe you were just a pawn in their game." I wasn't a pawn. I was the person they were trying to protect. I was their secret weapon. "Now it is time to make your first move," Grandpa said from the screen. "Open the audio file named Loose End." I found it and clicked play. I heard the voice of Omnicorp's CEO, a cold, cruel man named Marcus Thorne. And then I heard David's voice. "What do we do about Mary when this is all over?" Marcus asked. I heard David laugh. It was a short, ugly sound. "She's a loose end," David said. "She knows too much. She'll have to be cleaned up." They were talking about killing me, as if I was a piece of trash to be thrown away. The fire of my anger burned away all my fear. I wasn't running anymore. I was fighting. On the laptop screen, a secure email program was already open. Following my grandpa's final instructions from the video, I attached the loose end audio file to a new message. The address was already typed in the to field. It was my sister Clara's email address. My hand trembled as it hovered over the mouse. This would change everything. This would be the first stone I threw, the first ripple in a wave that would drown them all. I took a deep breath. And I clicked send. The click of the mouse was deafening in the small, silent room. The email was gone, sent into the world like an arrow shot in the dark. For a long moment, I just stared at the screen, my entire body buzzing. I had done it. I had stopped running and started fighting. A strange mix of wild fear and thrilling power washed over me. There was no going back. I had just thrown the first stone at the giants who had ruined my life, and I knew the sound would soon bring them running. The quiet waiting, wondering when and how my sister would see it, was a special kind of torture. Just as my panic began to rise, the laptop screen flickered. A new video of my grandpa began to play. He was smiling, a tired but proud look in his eyes. "Well done, Sparrow," he said, and it felt like he was right there with me. "The first stone has been thrown. Your sister is selfish, and she is a coward. When she hears what David truly is, her loyalty to him will shatter. She will think only of herself. While David is busy dealing with her panic, you must prepare." He looked directly into the camera. "It is time to let Mary Brooks disappear." His words hung in the air. Disappear? How? He directed me to a tall metal locker in the corner of the room. Inside, my breath caught in my throat. It was an entire new life, packed into a single duffel bag. There was a stack of cash, thick with $100 bills. There was a passport and a driver's license with my picture, but a different name, Jessica Stone. There were boxes of dark brown hair dye, a pair of plain glasses, and simple gray clothes that would make me invisible in a crowd. I was to become nobody. A ghost. I stood in front of the small bathroom mirror, scissors in my hand. My long, blonde hair, the hair David always said he loved, fell in clumps into the sink. It felt like I was cutting away my old life, my old pain, my old weakness. With every snip, Mary Brooks faded a little more. When I was done, a stranger looked back at me. A woman with short, dark hair and a fire in her eyes that I had never seen before. It was the face of Jessica Stone. And she was not a victim. She was a hunter. My new identity felt like a suit of armor. Grandpa's video then guided me to a secure program on the laptop. "Knowledge is your greatest weapon, Mary. It is time you see what the enemy is doing." I clicked the link, and a dozen small windows popped up on the screen. They were live video feeds. My grandparents had hidden cameras everywhere. My eyes scanned the labels: David's office, Robert's home, and one that made my heart pound, Clara's living room. I clicked on it. My sister was there, pacing back and forth, a wine glass in her hand. Then, I saw her pick up her phone. I watched, holding my breath, as my sister's face changed. I saw the moment she opened the email. Her brow furrowed in confusion, then her eyes widened in shock as the audio file played. I couldn't hear it, but I didn't need to. I saw the color drain from her face. She dropped her phone as if it had burned her. Her whole body trembled. The truth had hit her. The man she had allied with, the man she had betrayed me for, was a killer. And her fear wasn't for me. It was for herself. She realized if David would kill his wife, what would he do to a disposable partner? Clara scrambled around her perfect living room, throwing clothes and jewelry into a suitcase. She was running. The alliance was broken, just like Grandpa said it would be. "Her panic is a smokescreen, Mary," my grandpa's voice said from the laptop. While David and Omnicorp are distracted by the frightened sister, you will go after the greedy brother. He explained that our brother Robert was more than just a cheat. He was Omnicorp's money man in the city. He washed their dirty money, hiding their crimes behind his legitimate business. He was the key to their power. Grandpa's instructions were clear. The next part of the plan was not just about sending messages. It was about taking action. He directed me to a new file on the Scythe drive. It was a detailed plan to intercept a massive money transfer Robert was personally handling in 2 days. The plan was terrifying. It required me to walk into a high-security building, pretend to be someone I wasn't, and steal millions of dollars right from under their noses. It was bold, it was dangerous, and it was brilliant. This was how I would start to take them apart, piece by piece. As I stared at the blueprints and timelines, my new untraceable phone, which had been in the duffel bag, buzzed on the table beside me. It was a text message from a number I didn't recognize. My whole body went cold. Had they found me already? Was it a trick? With a trembling hand, I picked up the phone and read the message. There were only 2 sentences. The sparrow must fly to the hawk's nest. I am a friend of your grandparents. Are you ready? My heart stopped. A friend. My grandparents had an ally out in the world? Who was this person? Could they be trusted? The message was a lifeline and a terrifying mystery all at once. An unknown player had just stepped onto the board. I looked at the face of Jessica Stone, reflected in the dark screen of the phone. I didn't know if I could trust this stranger, but I knew one thing for sure. I had no other choice. I typed back a single word, ready. The word ready glowed on the small screen of the burner phone. For a few long seconds, there was only silence. My heart hammered in my chest. Who had I just agreed to trust? Was this a friend, or was it a trap set by David and Omnicorp? My thumb hovered over the power button, ready to shut the phone off and disappear. Just as my fear was about to win, the phone buzzed again with a new message. The text was short and clear. Public Library, Main Branch. 10 a.m. Go to the 3rd floor cafe. Order a black coffee. Wait. Leaving the safety of the hidden apartment felt like stepping off a cliff. Every person I passed on the street was a potential threat. Every car that slowed down seemed to be watching me. I was Jessica Stone now, a ghost in a plain grey coat, but I felt like I had a giant spotlight shining on me. The city I had lived in my whole life felt alien and dangerous. This was the world my grandparents had lived in, a world of shadows and secrets, and I was now a part of it. I had to trust that their mysterious friend was on my side. Inside the library, the quiet felt tense. I followed the instructions perfectly, my hands shaking as I paid for the coffee. I found an empty table in the corner, one with a clear view of the room, just like I'd seen in spy movies. I sat there, trying to look normal, trying to read a newspaper, but my eyes darted around, searching every face. Who was it? The old man reading a book? The young woman typing on her laptop? After 10 agonizing minutes, my phone buzzed. Stay seated. A man will leave a newspaper on the table across from you. Take it when he leaves. A minute later, a man in a simple brown jacket walked past the table opposite me and casually left his folded newspaper behind. He didn't even look in my direction. He just walked away and disappeared down the stairs. My heart was pounding so hard I could feel it in my ears. I waited for a full minute, then calmly stood up, walked over, and picked up the paper. It felt heavy, thicker than a normal newspaper. I took it back to my table, sat down, and carefully unfolded it. Tucked inside was a large, flat envelope. It was a dead drop. This was real. Back in the safety of my apartment, I tore open the envelope. Inside was a sleek, new ID card with my Jessica Stone photo. The title on the card read, Global Data Solutions, Auditor. There was also a small, high-tech earpiece and a simple key with a number tag P.O. Box 77. A new text arrived. The post office is 3 blocks east. Go now. More tools await. This person, this watcher, was testing me, making me follow steps, making sure I wasn't being followed. They were a professional. My grandparents had chosen their friends well. At the post office, the key opened a small metal box. Inside was a heavy, black Pelican case, the kind used for expensive camera equipment. It looked serious and dangerous. I carried it back to the apartment, my mind racing. What could be inside? I placed the case on the table and clicked open the two heavy latches. The foam interior was perfectly cut to hold several items. There was a device that looked like a credit card reader, a roll of thermal paper, and a tiny gadget that looked like a ladybug. A note lay on top. The printer is for your mission credentials. The bug is for your brother's office. Listen first, then strike. While I was trying to understand the new tools, an alert popped up on my laptop. It was the live feed from David's office at Omnicorp. I clicked on it. David was there, his face angry and stressed. On a large screen in front of him was the face of Marcus Thorne, the CEO. "She's not a fool, David," Thorne snarled. "She has the scythe. She knows everything. You let a simple housewife slip through your fingers, and now she holds the keys to our kingdom. Find her. And find her sister. Clean up your mess." They knew. They knew I had the evidence, and they would stop at nothing to get it back. I quickly switched the feed to my brother Robert's office. He was on the phone, sweating and pacing. "No, the transfer is secure," he said, his voice shaky. "It's the first big payment for the Nightingale project. The full amount is being moved to the holding account tomorrow at 3 p.m. sharp." Hearing him say the name of my grandma's project, the beautiful dream he was helping to corrupt with their dirty money, made my anger burn white hot. This mission wasn't just about revenge anymore. It was about saving my grandmother's legacy from these vultures. As I watched my brother, the small earpiece from the newspaper made a soft chiming sound. I had forgotten I'd put it in my pocket. Hesitantly, I placed it in my ear. For a moment, there was only silence. Then, a voice spoke, calm and digitally altered, making it impossible to tell if it was a man or a woman. "Sparrow, can you hear me?" it asked. It was my ally, the Watcher. "Yes," I whispered, my voice barely working. "Good," the voice replied. "I've been monitoring their communications. The plan has changed. We are no longer just intercepting Robert's transfer." There was a pause that felt like it stretched for an hour. "A third party has been tipped off about the money. An old rival of Omnicorp. They will also be there tomorrow, and they play dirty." My blood ran cold. "Another enemy?" "Don't worry," the Watcher said calmly. "We will use the chaos. Tomorrow, we are not just stealing from Robert. We are taking every penny from everyone. Things are about to get very interesting." The Watcher's voice in my ear was unervingly calm, even as it described a world of chaos. "The rival group is called the Vultures," the disguised voice explained. "They are mercenaries who clean up the messes of corporations like Omnicorp. They know about the money, and they are coming to take it. We will use their attack as a distraction." The plan was no longer about a simple interception. While the Vultures attacked the building and Omnicorp's security was focused on them, I would use the chaos to get to the main server room. My job was to plant a device that would give the Watcher access to everything, allowing them to drain the entire account. But first, I had to plant the listening bug in my brother's office. "You will go in tonight," the Watcher said. "You will be a ghost." A few hours later, I was standing in a dark alley, dressed in the baggy gray uniform of a nighttime cleaner. The ID printer had created a perfect employee badge with my Jessica Stone photo. My heart felt like a trapped bird beating against my ribs. This was my first time in the field, my first real test. Every shadow seemed to hold an enemy, but I pushed the fear down. This was for Grandma and Grandpa. Walking through the silent, empty lobby of my brother's skyscraper felt like a dream. The security guard barely glanced at my fake ID. I pushed a cart full of cleaning supplies, the squeak of the wheels echoing in the giant, marble hall. The elevator ride up to the 40th floor was the longest ride of my life. When I got to Robert's executive suite, the hallway was dark and quiet. The door to his personal office was locked. The keycard is live for 10 seconds. Now, Sparrow, the watcher's voice whispered in my ear. I swiped the card. The small light turned green with a soft click. I slipped inside, the door shutting behind me, sealing me in with the ghost of my brother. The office was huge and smelled of expensive leather and my brother's cologne. It was the smell of betrayal. As I knelt to plant the tiny ladybug device under his desk, my eyes fell on a silver picture frame. It was a photo of us, me, Robert, and Clara, as kids, building a sandcastle on the beach. We were all so happy. A hot wave of sorrow and anger washed over me. How did that happy little boy become this monster? How did he choose money and power over his own family? I touched the cool glass of the frame, my heart aching for a life that was gone forever. Just as I was about to leave, I saw a file folder on the corner of his desk. It was open, and the title on the tab made my blood run cold. Eloise Brooks, Final Estate Dispersal. My grandmother's name. My hands trembled as I carefully lifted the top page. It wasn't about money. It was a medical report I had never seen before. It was a coroner's toxicology screen. I read the words, and the air left my lungs. It listed a rare, fast-acting chemical in her blood, a chemical that causes a massive heart attack that leaves almost no trace. At the bottom of the report was a signature from a doctor I knew, from my research, was paid by Omnicorp. They had murdered her. My sweet, kind grandma who taught me how to bake and always saved the last cookie for me. They hadn't just silenced my grandpa. They had murdered her too, to get to her research. A strangled sob escaped my lips. They killed her, I whispered into the silent earpiece. They killed them both. For a long moment, there was only static. Then the watcher's voice returned, and for the first time, the digital comm was gone. There was something else there, something human. I know, the voice said, and it sounded heavy with pain. That is why we cannot fail. Get out of there, Sparrow. Now. My escape from the building was a blur. The sorrow in my heart had burned away, leaving behind a cold, hard diamond of pure rage. This was no longer about a stolen inheritance or a broken heart. This was for them. This was for the lives they had stolen, for the family they had destroyed. I would not let them get away with it. I would burn their entire world to the ground. My fear was gone, replaced by a certainty that was as sharp and clear as glass. I knew what I had to do. I made it back to the safe house, my mind a storm of grief and fury. I sat in the dark, letting the anger wash over me, letting it make me strong. After an hour, my earpiece chimed. It was the watcher. The bug is working perfectly. I am listening to Robert's office now. There was a pause. He is not alone. Omnicorp has sent someone to oversee the transfer tomorrow. They are worried he will make a mistake. A photo appeared on my laptop screen. It was of a woman with cold, dark eyes and severely pulled back hair. She looked like a predator. The watcher's voice returned, low and grim. Her name is Katerina Volkov. The file says she is their top auditor. She is not an auditor, Mary. She is their cleaner. Their assassin. I stared at the woman's face, a chill spreading through my entire body. Katerina was the specialist they sent to handle your grandparents, the watcher continued, the voice now flat and dangerous. Tomorrow, Mary, your mission requires you to be in the same room as the woman who murdered the two people you loved most. Do not fail. The morning of the mission, the world outside the safehouse window was gray and rainy. It matched the cold, quiet storm inside of me. There was no room for fear anymore. Fear had been burned away by the truth. The woman who murdered my grandparents, the woman who had stolen their final years, was going to be in the same building as me today. I looked at the face of Jessica Stone in the mirror. Her eyes were not the eyes of Mary Brooks. They were the eyes of a hunter, and today, she would not miss her mark. My revenge was no longer just a wish. It was a promise. In my ear, the watcher's voice was a calm river in my storm of rage. You are Jessica Stone, an auditor from Global Data Solutions. You are there to oversee the transfer. Your mission is not to confront them. Your mission is to get to the server room on the 41st floor. Plant the device. Get out. The plan was simple, but my hands trembled as I put on the plain black blazer and grey skirt. I was walking into the heart of the monster's lair, and I had to pretend I belonged there. I was an actor about to step onto the most dangerous stage in the world. The Omnicorp Tower was a giant spear of glass and steel, stabbing into the rainy sky. It was a monument to their power and greed. As I walked across the marble lobby, my fake ID badge clipped to my jacket, I felt 100 pairs of eyes on me. I kept my head down, my expression bored. Just another worker on another day. I made it to the secure elevators for the top floors. I swiped my card. The light beeped green. The doors slid open. I stepped inside, and just as the doors were closing, a hand shot out to stop them. A man in a perfect suit stepped in beside me. It was David. My blood turned to ice. He was so close I could smell the faint scent of his expensive cologne, a smell that once made me feel safe. He didn't look at me. He was too busy, his face tight with stress as he spoke into his phone. I don't care what it takes, you find Clara. And you find her now, he snarled. The doors slid shut, trapping me in the small metal box with the man who had destroyed my life and planned to end it. My every instinct screamed to run, to scream, to attack him. But I stood perfectly still. I was Jessica Stone. And Jessica Stone did not know this man. The elevator dinged on his floor. He rushed out without a single glance in my direction. I was invisible. When I reached the 40th floor, the quiet was even more terrifying. A nervous secretary led me down a long hall to the main conference room. I took a deep breath and walked in. My brother Robert stood by the window, wringing his hands, looking pale and sick. And sitting at the head of the long glass table was a woman with hair pulled back so tight it looked painful. Her eyes were dark and empty, like a shark's. It was her. Katerina Volkov. She looked up as I entered, and her dead eyes locked onto mine. For one terrible second, the world stopped. She was staring right at me, and I was sure she could see everything. The auditor, Katerina said. Her voice was flat and had a cold, sharp edge. You're late. The spell was broken. She saw a tardy employee, not the granddaughter of the people she had murdered. My apologies. The weather, I replied, my voice sounding surprisingly steady. I took a seat at the table, opened my laptop, and tried to look busy. The watcher's voice was a whisper in my ear. She does not suspect you. Robert is the weak link. Keep him off balance. Your target is the server room. The access panel is hidden behind the large painting on the east wall. You will have a window of opportunity when the chaos begins. And then, the chaos began. A deep, muffled boom echoed up from the floors below. The building seemed to shudder. The lights flickered once, then came back on. Robert yelped and ran to the door. What was that? He cried. Katerina didn't even flinch. She glanced at her phone with a look of annoyance. It seems our uninvited guests have arrived on schedule, she said calmly. The vultures, the watcher's voice said in my ear, urgent and sharp. They've breached the lobby. Security is scrambled. This is your chance, Sparrow. Create a reason to leave the room. Go now. I stood up, my legs feeling like jelly. With the security breach, I need to check the network integrity from the main hub, I said, hoping I sounded like a boring auditor. Robert was too panicked to even look at me, but Katerina's sharp eyes snapped back to me. The connection is stable from here, she said, her voice dripping with suspicion. My heart froze in my chest. She was questioning me. The plan was falling apart. It's standard corporate procedure during a security event, I pushed back, my voice firm, remembering the instructions from the watcher. I have to physically verify the server connection to ensure the transfer is not compromised. A remote check is not enough. I held her gaze, refusing to look away. Katerina stared at me for a long, silent moment. Her eyes were like ice picks, trying to dig the truth out of me. I could feel my mask of Jessica Stone starting to crack. Then, she gave a small, almost invisible nod. The corner of her mouth twitched. "Fine," she said, her voice like chipping ice. "You have 2 minutes. I will be timing you." My blood ran cold. 2 minutes. It wasn't enough time. I had to get to another floor, find the hidden panel, plant the device, and get back before the world's deadliest assassin turned her suspicion into a certainty. The clock was ticking, and Katerina was holding the watch. 2 minutes, Katerina's voice echoed in my head as I walked out of the conference room. My legs felt like they were made of lead, but I forced myself into a quick, steady pace. I was no longer Mary Brooks, the heartbroken wife. I was Jessica Stone, the efficient auditor, and I was on a mission. Ignore the main elevators. They're too slow and monitored, the watcher's voice crackled in my ear, sharp and urgent. Service stairs are at the end of the hall on your left. Go. The clock is ticking. I found the metal door and pushed through it, my sensible shoes clattering on the concrete steps as I ran up toward the 41st floor. The hallway on the 41st floor was completely silent, a ghost town compared to the chaos erupting floors below. All the office doors were closed, the employees locked down for safety. My footsteps were the only sound. I found the large, ugly painting of the city skyline that the watcher had described. It was a perfect hiding spot for something secret. Bottom left corner of the frame, the watcher instructed. Push firmly. I pressed my palm against the spot. With a soft click, a small section of the wall beside the painting popped open, revealing a sleek, black security keypad. The watcher gave me a 6-digit code. Katerina is watching the clock, Sparrow. Hurry. My fingers, slick with nervous sweat, flew across the keypad. I typed in the numbers and hit enter. A shrill beep filled the hallway, and the small light on the panel flashed an angry red. Access denied. My heart plummeted. She changed the codes. The watcher's voice was tight with frustration. She must have done it this morning as an extra precaution. She's locking everything down. I can't bypass it from here. The 2 minutes were draining away like sand through my fingers. I was trapped. Panic clawed at my throat. I was going to fail. Katerina would know I was a fraud, and it would all be over. I stared at the keypad, my mind racing. Then, a memory sparked. While studying the files on the scythe, I had seen a footnote on the building's security blueprints about an old master override system. It wasn't a number. It was a date. The birthday of the company's founder, a man obsessed with his own legacy. Try 8101945, I whispered, remembering the date from his biography. I typed it in. There was a moment of silence, and then a beautiful, soft green light glowed on the panel. The heavy server room door unlocked with a quiet whoosh. I slipped inside the cold, humming room. It felt like the belly of a giant, sleeping machine. Rows and rows of black servers blinked with thousands of tiny lights. This was the brain of OmniCorp. Main transaction hub, 3rd rack on your right, Section D, the watcher guided me. I found the server, my fingers fumbling with the latch on the front panel. I swung it open and saw the single empty USB port, just as described. I pulled the small device, the key, from my pocket and plugged it in. A tiny blue light on the key began to blink steadily. It was working. It was in. But as I closed the panel, I heard them. Footsteps. Coming down the hall. My blood ran cold. I dove behind a tall server rack, squeezing myself into the shadows just as the server room door swung open. It was David. My ex-husband stood in the doorway, yelling into his phone at a security chief about the vulture's attack. He was so close I could see the sweat on his forehead. He paced back and forth, completely unaware that the woman he was hunting was holding her breath just a few feet away. After a tense minute that felt like a lifetime, he finished his call and left, slamming the door shut behind him. The device was planted. Now I just had to get back. I sprinted back down the service stairs, my lungs burning. I checked the timer on my burner phone. 10 seconds left. I burst back into the 40th floor hallway, forcing myself to slow down, smoothing my hair, trying to look calm and slightly annoyed, like a real auditor. I walked through the conference room door just as my silent timer hit 0. Katerina looked up from her watch, her eyes as cold as a winter sky. She said nothing, but her stare told me she was still suspicious. I had passed a test, but only barely. Suddenly, Robert's phone rang, and he answered it with a shaky hand. "What?" he shrieked. "What do you mean the vultures are on this floor? That's impossible." The watcher's voice in my ear was grim. "They weren't supposed to get past the 20th floor. Someone inside is helping them. This is not good." Before anyone could react, the conference room doors flew open with a loud bang. It wasn't the vultures. It was David, flanked by 2 huge Omnicorp security guards. But he wasn't looking at the chaos. He was staring right at me. His face was ghostly white, his eyes wide with a horrifying mix of confusion and recognition. He held up his security phone, showing the screen to Katerina. On it was a grainy security photo from the elevator, a picture of him standing next to me. "I knew there was something familiar," he said, his voice a choked whisper that filled the silent room. He lowered the phone and pointed a trembling, accusing finger directly at me. "It's you," he breathed. "The hair, the glasses. It's a disguise." His eyes met mine, and the mask of Jessica Stone shattered into a million pieces. "It's Mary. It's Mary." The name hung in the air, thick and heavy like a storm cloud. The mask was gone. I was exposed. The 2 guards raised their weapons, pointing them at me. My brother Robert stared, his mouth hanging open like a fish. David looked triumphant, like he had just solved a puzzle. But I didn't look at them. I looked at the only person in the room who truly mattered. I looked at Katerina. Her cold, dead eyes showed no surprise. Only a flicker of something new. Interest. I was no longer a boring auditor. I was a problem to be solved. Then, I did something none of them expected. I smiled. It was a cold, sharp smile that didn't reach my eyes. "Hello, David," I said, my voice calm and clear. "It took you long enough." The confidence in my voice threw them off. Why wasn't I scared? Why wasn't I begging for my life? In my ear, the watcher's voice was a low hum of energy. "The device is active, Sparrow. I have the building. I have the money. I am taking it all. Just keep them talking. The final move is yours." I turned my gaze to my brother. He flinched like a scared animal. "Robert," I said, my voice softening just a little. "They murdered our grandparents. Katerina, the woman standing right next to you, she killed them in cold blood. David helped her. Is this really the side you want to be on when the world comes crashing down?" Robert looked from me to Katerina, his face a mess of fear and confusion. He was a greedy coward, but he was not a killer. I could see the tiny seed of doubt I had planted beginning to sprout. Katerina saw it too. With the cold, quick calculation of a snake, she decided her partners were now a liability. "He's right," Katerina said, her voice bored. "You are all loose ends." In one fluid motion, she pulled a small black pistol from inside her jacket. Before David could even react, she fired. Not at me. At him. David crumpled to the floor, clutching his leg, a look of pure shock on his face. The guards turned their guns toward Katerina, but she was faster, taking one of them down before the other could even pull the trigger. Chaos erupted. Suddenly, the entire building shuddered. Red emergency lights began to flash, and heavy metal doors slammed down over the windows and doorways, sealing us in. The conference room was plunged into a blood-red darkness. The large TV screen on the wall flickered to life. It was the audio file. My voice, reading David's words, filled the room. "She's a loose end. She'll have to be cleaned up." Then, the building's main intercom crackled to life. But it wasn't the disguised voice of the Watcher. It was a new voice. A voice I knew better than my own. A woman's voice, strong and clear. "Katerina Volkov," the voice said, and I felt my knees go weak. "This was never about the money. This is about family." On the screen, a live video feed appeared. It was a woman with blonde hair, sitting in a control center that looked just like my grandma's bunker. She looked right into the camera. It was my sister. It was Clara. My cowardly, selfish, runaway sister wasn't running at all. She was the one who had been pulling the strings. She was the Watcher. "Hello, sister," Clara said, a small, sad smile on her face. "Sorry about the drama. Grandma's plan was a bit theatrical." She explained everything. When I sent her the email, it was the signal she had been waiting for. She didn't run in fear. She ran to our grandparents' second command center, the one they had built for her. We were both part of the plan. I was the sparrow, the player on the board. She was the Watcher, the one who saw everything. We were a two-person army, raised from childhood for this one final game. Katerina stood frozen, finally understanding the true nature of the trap she had walked into. "The money is gone," Clara's voice echoed through the room. "All of it. It's already been transferred to a dozen untraceable charities for the elderly, funding the real Project Nightingale, just like Grandma always wanted." She continued, her voice turning to ice. "And the scythe, with all its proof of Omnicorp's crimes, including the murders of Eloise and Arthur Brooks, has just been sent to every major news agency in the world. Checkmate." The game was over. I walked over to where David was lying on the floor, bleeding and broken. I looked down at him, not with hate, but with a strange kind of pity. His entire life's work, his greed, his betrayal, it had all turned to dust. "It's over, David," I said softly. Robert was sobbing in the corner, a broken man who had lost everything for nothing. Katerina stood alone, a killer trapped in a cage, with the sound of approaching police sirens growing louder and louder. We had won. Not with guns, but with a plan. A plan fueled by love. My grandparents taught us that the world could be cruel, but that the bonds of family, when true, were the most powerful weapon of all. They laughed when I inherited a broken-down shed, but they never knew my sister held the key to the castle. We took back our family's legacy, and we used it to make the world a little brighter. We got our justice. Thank you so much for watching our story. If you believe in the power of family and that the little guy can sometimes win, please hit that like button, share this video with your friends, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more stories of justice and revenge. We'll see you next time.